Don't mind me, I'm definitely not late for the second time in a row. Hey Squiggles, how are you doing? Just beat Baldur's Gate 3? Nice. I'm still in the prologue. I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3. I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3 since it came out. Well, anyway, let's get some actual sound effects going on stream. I can't believe it's been 6 months since I was last allowed to work in court. And now here I am, back at the Old Bailey. Ah, Mr. Naruhodo. Good morning, Professor Harebraned. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. The atmospheric pressure in here is off the charts. I've never felt anything like it. It's crushing me. I feel it every time I'm here. That gravity. Well, this is Britain's highest court. But you're telling me it's fitted with some kind of device that can actually control air pressure? I think it's probably all in the mind. Yes, well, you won't let me down, will you, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm counting on you in today's trial. To save my life. To save the secret of my super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine from being made public. Yes, I understand. I know what I have to do. Have to establish that the explosion 2 days ago was nothing more than an unfortunate accident. Well, I'm sure there's nothing to worry about, really. Justice will prevail. Who is this? My commiserations, Mr. Naruhodo. You appear to have been lumbered with a most tiresome case here. Oh, you appear to be, My commiserations, Mr. Naruhodo. You appear to have been lumbered with a most tiresome case here. Mr. Sholmes, I didn't expect to see you here.
That was very mean, Bruno, leaving me all alone at home with Hurley. It took me at least an hour to wake him.
Is it... Are you... Sherlock Sholmes? Indeed, sir, I am he. Sherlock Sholmes. Oh, I've heard all about your exploits, even whilst living in Germany.
Yes. Ranced magazine is on sale in Germany, too.
This month's installment was sublime. Your deduction in the adventure of Silver Blaze was wonderful. Ah, yes. A memorable case indeed. It concerned a snake, I seem to recall.
No, that was the Speckled Band.
Well, thank you for coming. I do appreciate your support. I'm sorry to disappoint you, my dear fellow, but I'm afraid I can't stay. Oh. I have urgent business at Madame Two-Spells. You mean your waxwork job? No, the waxwork abduction, of course. Madame has engaged my services. Ah, so you're trying to get to the bottom of that ransom note, are you? The week's wages depend on it, as does the safe return of the waxwork, naturally. As such, I intend to give it my undivided attention. Oh, well, never mind then. I understand. Of course, with my skills of observation and reasoning, resolving the matter will be as easy as proverbial pie. I shall return forthwith. For until I solve the case, I shall have no money to afford a pie for of any description.
Oh, then you must absolutely give it your full attention, Hurley.
Quite, Iris, quite. But life is riddled with irony, you know? Whenever I give something my full attention, I have a quite insatiable desire for Pi. One of the universe's intractable mysteries, you might say. Oh yes, quite. Definitely, absolutely. I totally understand. Someone a little starstruck? I wish you the very best of luck, Professor Harebraned. Oh, why thank you. Before I depart, Mr. Naruhodo, a word in your ear, if you please. What's this about? As you have remarkably little grounding in science, I feel I ought to inform you. As compelling as this super high voltage, instantaneous kinesis hypothesis may be, a practical implementation, such as was attempted by the professor at the general exhibition, is quite impossible. But the professor said the demonstration was a success. Thank you for the hydrate, Nautilus. How are you doing? Yes, it would appear that he fervently believes it was.
I've read Professor Bunnybrain's paper about it too, Runo. And I have to say, I'm sure it can't be done. It could barely be done theoretically, let alone practically.
So he's completely barking up the wrong tree? But how could an experiment that had no possibility of succeeding in fact succeed? That's contradictory. And it's that contradiction that will be at the heart of the trial. I've no doubt. Hey Sachi, how are you doing? Currently have a bitey puppy in your lap. Alright, give me a sec. Sorry about that. What's that supposed to mean? Now, I must hurry along. I wish you the best of luck, my dear fellow.
And see you later, Hurley. Well, it looks like you're on your own today, Runo. But chin up, you can do it.
Oh, what about you, Iris?
No, I'm afraid I can't help. I have something I need to do.
I see.
It's going to be a big surprise for you when you find out what it is.
That sounds ominous. I have a very bad feeling that I already know what this is. Iris, this isn't one of your, like, patented...
Maybe. Maybe not. You'll have to wait and see.
That's for the defense and the defendant. Court is about to be in session. Make your way into the courtroom at once. We're on our way. Experiment that the laws of science say can't possibly succeed. And a scientist who's convinced that it did. That's the riddle you have to unlock here, Ryunosuke. That's the key to this case. Teleporting a pipe bomb into the courtroom is legal because it's theoretically impossible. Therefore, there's no law against it.
Don't you know, Runo? The law states that you're not allowed to plant bombs in the courtroom, which means that I legally have to be in the courtroom for it to apply to me. If I teleport it in from outside, I'm not actively planting the bomb.
name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. And now sitting today for the public trial of Professor Albert Harebraned. Wow. Now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. Getting up to your old vampire act, I see, buddy. Sorry, give me just a sec. Okay. The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord. 6 months out of practice. And what's more, Susato's ghost is haunting me. I'm without Susato-san today. Is it just my imagination, or does the air here feel even more oppressive than usual? Oh, I must say that I recollect the victim of this case all too well, Mr. Odie Assman. Mr. Assman was well known as a financier, though that was merely a front for his diverse criminal activities. It was only a month ago that the man appeared in court, prosecuted by you, Lord Van Zieks. The jury unanimously found him not guilty. As every member of the jury had been bribed by the sound of it. These powerful London criminals are prepared to go to extreme lengths to keep their freedom. The air is heavy because Van Zieks has to prosecute his ex. Two days ago, on the 21st of October, Mr. Assman met his end. Work of the Reaper, was it? If that is how your lordship would describe divine retribution. Evening, morning, whatever. How are you doing, Taco? But the fact remains that Mr. Assman's death was a direct result of the actions of the accused, Professor Harebraned. Very well then. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you've been selected at random to represent the will of the people. I swear if we see repeat faces, I'm going to be upset. Population of London is like 25 people and that's it. Are the 6 of you ready to fulfill your societal duty? Oh. Most gratified to have been selected to carry out this important civic duty, my lord. Ooh, I like that design. That's a good design.
To have a man's fate in the palm of one's hand. Oh gosh, oh golly, it sends shivers down my spine.
There's a character from the Apollo trilogy that this reminds me of. Science experiments, science experiments, magic, conjuring tricks, courtroom trials, all are nothing more than performances. A spurious scholar that defiles the reputation of science deserves to hang.
We have to listen to what's said on both sides of the fence. And then, settle on one. That's it, isn't it?
Like this in my day, wasn't like this at all. That's... Police killer Ottermole look-alike again. He's as exhausted as ever, it seems. Now, as I'm sure you're all aware... What do you mean, how does the child have corn? What kind of, like, question is that? That sounds like a phrase used to activate a sleeper agent. The incident we're here to judge today tragically took place at the Great Exhibition shortly after its opening. What time does this take place in? It's like turn of the century. It's in California. It's turn of the century London. The incident we're here to judge today tragically took place at the Great Exhibition shortly after its opening. 1910. Yeah, something like that. Early 1900s is around where I would think that this game is. Because the whole Great Exhibition is supposed to be a celebration of the turning century, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong about that, though. I might be inserting random shit that is irrelevant here. Though the death toll could have been far worse. The exception of the victim, no one was killed. Nevertheless, the dream of the science being exhibited rapidly turned into a nightmare for the spectators. Tragic turn of events. As such, the eyes of all London, no, of the whole world, will be on this trial. Our duty to reach a swift and just conclusion, I feel. Got confused because corn is in America's crop. Well, I mean, America like exists here. It's not like, you know, it's not like pre-colonization of the Americas. It's, you know, we've got like steam engines and shit, and because I mean, you know, our protagonist came across on a steamboat from Japan. 1900 to 1902. So, your opening statement, please, Lord Van Zieks. Oh, yeah. At the heart of this incident is technology never before demonstrated anywhere in the world. One of science's latest developments, I take it. The government is keen to capitalize on the Great Exhibition to improve Britain's technological advantage. The technology being demonstrated by the accused was described as super high voltage instantaneous kinesis. Good lord. It's designed to disassemble human subjects using extremely high voltage electricity and beam them instantly to another location where they're being subsequently reassembled. Is such a thing even within the realm of possibility? Well, I don't believe it, that's for sure.
Disassembling people with electricity. Oh my goodness, how shocking.
The whole idea is absurd. The hypothesis would never stand up to scrutiny. Sir, I believe you are a fellow of the Royal Society, are you not? An expert in your field. I am. My word on the matter can be considered final. Instantaneous kinesis is poppycock. So this expert and Mr. Sholmes are in agreement. It's impossible. What's the prosecution's view on the matter? The prosecution would assert that the accused's instantaneous kinesis demonstration was a success. What? What rot? Order! Order! The professor's hypothesis is currently under investigation by the British government. If it is deemed to have merit, a substantial research grant would be made available. The accused made use of the invention built on his new hypothesis to take Mr. Aspen's life, in order to be the sole benefactor of the grant. But... This disastrous demonstration was no accident. It was carefully designed from the outset to end the life of the victim. Thank you, Lord Van Zeeks. The prosecution's stance is clear. I'll bring forth a witness to substantiate your claims. It's gonna be Iris, isn't it? Gladly, Lord. Bailiff, show the first witnesses to the stand. Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector, Scotland Yard's Homicide Division. Is on duty at the demonstration on the day in question, in charge of the following investigation.
Albert Harebraned, scientist.
You were born in England, but have been carrying out research in Germany in recent years, correct?
Yes, that's right. After graduating from university here in Britain, I went to work in Germany and made an amazing discovery. Which is what brought me back. I had to demonstrate my incredible hypothesis at the Great Exhibition.
Negative 11 degrees. How cold is it where I'm at? I'm actually curious. It's currently sitting at about 35 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the warmest it's been in a hot minute. What you demonstrated was incredible, all right? Incredible explosion.
But the science was a success. The instantaneous kinesis worked. Everyone saw it. They must have done. Yes, there was a terrible accident, but the demonstration of my hypothesis was a success.
Well, that much is undeniable. Shown in this photograph taken by the forensic investigation team. This was taken inside the Crystal Tower, I take it. Centerpiece of the exhibition, no less. That's right, my lord. Seems the victim rammed straight into it. I see. Very well. Submit the photograph as evidence. As the court's heard, in the event of the incident was Mr. Odie Aspen. There been a number of allegations made against the man, but put them aside for the time being. The man who financed the research for the experiment and the demonstration itself. I see. But to summarize the situation, defendant is accused of taking the life of the man who funded his work. That be correct? Exactly. That wasn't your voice. But couldn't it be that the explosion was caused by some malfunction in the apparatus used for the demonstration?
That's right. That must be it. My splendid machine. My poor splendid machine.
Saw it yesterday, didn't you? Can't even examine the wreckage thanks to the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act.
What? The wreckage? The wreckage?
That being the case, how can the facts be established? How can it possibly be determined whether this was an accident or a deliberate and malicious act? Extremely simply, my lord. I beg your pardon? Isn't that right, witness?
Sorry, me?
No, your neighbor. Yes, sir. It was murder, plain and simple. Anyone could state with complete certainty. I just realized that the voice that I've been doing for Gregson this stream is literally just a slightly higher pitched judge voice.
What? How can he possibly think that?
Thank you, Inspector. I think we had better proceed to formal testimony. You'll explain to the court on what grounds you claim this experiment to have been a front for murder. Corpse that went crashing through the crystal tower had a broken neck.
I made a minor miscalculation in the angle of the beam projection, that's all. That was my mistake.
Post-mortem examination revealed another injury. Fatal wound. There's a lesion in his chest where he'd clearly been stabbed by something sharp right in the heart. Victim was killed before he went anywhere. This fella's the only one who could have done it. Extraordinary business. In addition to suffering a broken neck, the victim was stabbed in the heart. Information I would really like to have heard from someone other than the judge. Coroner says death would have been all but instant from a wound like that. You could say, in fact, that the victim was killed twice by the accused.
No, and no. That couldn't be further from the truth.
I have here the experimental plan document that was submitted to the security team. The victim stood himself inside something called the birdcage, ready to be beamed instantly. Second level of the crystal tower, about 25 yards away. There we go, that's closer to what I want. The experiment did not go according to plan, however. As the machine was put into operation, there was a large explosion. The blast caused the beam transmitter to point higher than intended. Accordingly, the kinesis resulted in the birdcage materializing in mid-air, where it subsequently fell, crashing through the glass of the crystal tower's large round window. My word. One assumes the victim's neck was broken upon impact with the tower, then.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. The machine was just too powerful. But honestly, really, I swear, it was just an accident. A terrible accident.
Unfortunately, that excuse can't save you. No, not considering the sharp murder weapon that pierced the victim's heart.
Murder weapon? What are you saying?
This is the autopsy report submitted by the coroner. The prosecution would like it entered into the court record. Request is granted, counsel. Have these lawyers and scientists never heard of a release of liability waiver? It's a good question. I was there in person, you know. I saw the whole ludicrous performance. The only other person on stage with Mr. Assman was that disgraceful excuse for a scientist.
Then really, by all accounts, it must have been him.
Hard to think otherwise, really. This guy's had 3 different voices, one for every line he said. Very well, counsel for the defense. Proceed with the cross-examination, please. Oh, yes, my lord. I need to focus here. It's been a while. Corpse that went crashing through the crystal tower had a broken neck.
Hold it!
Are you suggesting that's because he fell from a considerable height? Exactly, which highlights something else about this whole rum business. What's that? The fact that the instantaneous kinesis itself was a success. Ah! After the explosion, the cage with the fella inside suddenly appeared out of nowhere in midair. Although the experiment ended in disaster, so-called instantaneous kinesis did actually occur. Remind us, Professor, what was the cause of the fatal disaster? I made a minor miscalculation in the angle of the beam projection. That's all. That was my mistake.
Hold it!
So the angle of projection is critical, is it? And you calculated it yourself, personally. Absolutely. The calculation is far too complicated for anyone but me to carry out. Well, you got it wrong, didn't you? Yes, that's right. That's the point. The calculation is so complicated, even I can make a mistake. Do people fall for that brazen confidence? Should I try it? I took into account the subject's height and weight, the wind direction, the ambient temperature. I considered every possible variable, so I just don't understand how this could have happened. Obviously, then, you had to include the weight of the clothes Mr. Assman was wearing at the time, I suppose. Ah. Crackling comets! The answer should have been 3! So much for safety first. 3 must be for safety third. Post-mortem examination revealed another injury, a fatal wound. Oh wait, whoops.
Hold it!
Another fatal injury, you say? That doesn't make any sense. I'd have to spell this out, but here we go. Because there was 2 fatal wounds doesn't mean I'm saying the victim had 2 lives to lose, does it? 2 right. Obviously, at first, we thought the bloke had died due to his spine snapping in half as well. But you're saying that's not the case? Get your answer once I finish my fish and chips. You don't keep butting in every few seconds. We all know that's a bottomless bag. The victim plummeted 30 feet into a glass tower. It would be reasonable to assume that that is the cause of death. Right. That's what we all thought, but it was a red herring, wasn't it? Yeah, I like that they acknowledge that Gregson has infinite fish and chips. There's a lesion in his chest where he'd clearly been stabbed by something sharp right in the heart.
Hold it!
The defense knew nothing of this crucial information. The prosecution received this report from the forensic investigation team only this morning. Gregson and his infinite fish and chip glitch. Nah, he's got the infinity enchantment on it. That was the first we knew of it as well. I can only apologize for the impossibility of informing the defense. Sarcastic and insincere. Thanks. So what was the nature of this sharp object? Among the accused's tools that were in use at the demonstration, one is of particular interest. This. Ah, yes, that would appear to be some kind of screwdriver, wouldn't it, Count?
Ah! There he is! My trusty little companion, Andrew!
Andrew? Of course.
Do you know each other already? He's one of my dear friends, like all my tools. I've named them all, you know. We're one big happy family. Have you ever heard of the children's show, Handy Manny?
God, I haven't thought of that kids show in ages. Did Bob the Builder also have sentient tools?
Andrew is my flathead screwdriver, of course. His brother Michael is a crosshead.
Well, it would appear your beloved Andrew has a red stain on his shank. What?
That isn't...
It's blood, beyond all reasonable doubt.
No!
That's not all. Long, sharp shape of this Andrew fella is completely consistent with the victim's wound.
Naming your tools isn't something you should admit to, let alone in court.
Order! Order! What will enter this friend of the defendant as evidence?
So one of Professor Harebrained's tools is the murder weapon.
Great. Victim was killed before he went anywhere, and this fellow's the only one who could have done it.
Hold it!
What grounds do you have for saying that?
Really need to ask? We're the only two people on that public experimentation stage, in front of the whole crowd. Victim, Mr. Odie Assman, and the accused, Professor Harebrained. We know for certain that before the experiment, the victim was alive. That's right, I saw him with my own eyes. Furthermore, following the explosion and kinesis, nobody went anywhere near the body. In other words, that's not your voice.
Great Scott!
In other words, someone else only someone else on stage with the victim could possibly have done it.
Excuse me!
Bottomless corn dog. Hey Pine, how are you doing? Professor Harebrained, do you have some information that might be relevant here? Professor. Sorry. I was just calculating the optimum coefficient of electrolysis to separate the molecules in the human body. Angsty for no particular reason. Ugh. Those days are the worst. The witness's stand is the best place for that? It seemed as though you might have something to say about Inspector Gregson's last remark. Yes, that's right. Of course. He just said that nobody else could have done it, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Who else could have stabbed the victim, eh?
I don't know, but... There's no way that I could possibly have stabbed Mr. Assman, as you say.
Explain, please, Professor.
Of course. This cold-hearted policeman may not be aware, I suppose. When they made Harebrained, they just googled science words and threw them in, didn't they? But humans are warm-blooded mammals, with blood running continuously through their veins.
I'd heard.
Then surely, you see, if I'd plunged something the size of Andrew into the man's chest, the whole stage would have been a bloodbath, now a blood swimming pool. But thousands of Londoners were watching me at the time, and yet not one of them claims to have seen a swimming pool of blood.
Well, no. I suppose not. You see? Not one! True, I didn't see anything like that. Well done, Professor. That was a great counter-argument. Order! Order! Allow me to smash your argument to pieces like I'm about to smash this hallowed chalice. Pray forgive the discourtesy if I savor a drop from my hallowed chalice to accompany my old friend's adducing. Here's to you, Albert. Oh, you're too kind, Barak. But I'm really not a patch on you. No, you're not. No? You've neglected to mention one crucial possibility. Also, before we get too much further into this. Oh, this is the blood. I didn't even notice that this was blood. This is blood. Mr. Asmon's, no doubt. This is the problem with looking at murder weapons. The problem with looking at murder weapons is that they all have blood on them. I've seen this unusually shaped handle before. It's the same screwdriver that was lodged in the grill on the floor of the kinesis machine. Which could be important information, so I should definitely make a note of it. The ergonomics of that screwdriver are awful. I was thinking the exact same thing, Pine. Oh, Pine, I want you to know, completely random thing. Once I got off work today, I've been following the donut blender tutorial because I've been trying to learn how to model stuff in Blender. And I came across the one time that I could post the stupid Blender explode meme and have it actually mean something other than it being absolute nonsense. Because for some reason, out of nowhere, Blender just decided to crash on me for no reason. Which could be important information, so I should definitely take note of it. Why did you Blender explode? Cause of death, hemorrhage of a wound to the chest that pierced the heart, inflicted by a sharp implement. Additional observations, a broken vertebra, most likely resulting from impact after a sudden fall from considerable height. 2:22 p.m. for time of death. Odious man? What does the word odious mean? You've neglected to mention one crucial possibility. I have? The particular situation, which very little bleeding would result from a stab wound. Ah, of course. That was the Gumshoe voice. Gumshoe, where did you come from? Inspector, enlighten the court, please. Yes, sir. Where are they going with this? They're probably going with the argument of the murder weapon was left in, but that's impossible. Smelly or unsightly. Very well, you will amend your formal testimony now, Inspector Gregson. The weapon the victim was stabbed with must have been left in his body whilst he was beamed through the air. Isn't the screwdriver itself poking through the grill in the base of what remains of the kinesis machine? Wow. Extremely unpleasant or repulsive. So... I think I'm just supposed to present this because it literally couldn't have been because it was in the grill in the teleporter.
Objection!
Yeah. You say that while the weapon remains in the body, there's very little bleeding. Is that unequivocal? Look, no blood on the experimentation stage, even though that's where the fellow was stabbed. And the explanation for that is if the screwdriver was still in his body, stopping any heavy bleeding. Okay, this is probably gonna sound really dumb, because, like, you know, I'm not claiming to be an expert or anything, but if you stabbed someone in the heart with something that small, wouldn't it be more likely that the blood pressure behind it would force it back out rather than sticking in the wound? I might be being stupid. I'm probably being stupid, actually. But it's just a thought. It's common medical knowledge, my learned friend. Even on your side of the world. Depends on a lot of things. Yes, but about this screwdriver. Don't think the pressure's high enough. Thing is, we actually saw it at the scene ourselves on the experimentation stage. What? It was on the floor by the wreckage of the machine, poking through the metal grill. If the pressure was that high, you'd be bursting. That's fair. I went to pick it up, but the detective here stopped me. Isn't that right, Inspector Gregson? Now you come to mention it, yes. Inspector, are we to understand that you permitted the defense counsel to investigate? That you contravened the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act? No, not at all. I wouldn't do that. I just let him look, nothing more. It was very clear he wasn't to touch a thing. Yes, that's true. This screwdriver was in plain sight on the stage. But it shouldn't have been, should it? What are you getting at? If this tool had still been in the victim's body when the victim was beamed away by the machine, then it shouldn't have still been on the stage. Also, completely random thing, I really like, I'm liking this case a lot so far, just because, like, the mysteries involving impossible technology are always really cool. And, there's one case, the DLC case from Spirit of Justice, from what very, very little I've seen of it, is another one of this style of case of, like, unraveling a mystery behind a piece of impossible technology. It's literally called Turnabout Time Traveler. And it, like, I'm excited to get to that case because I want to know what that's about. It shouldn't have still been on the stage. That's right. It should have been beamed across to the Crystal Tower along with Mr. Asman. And been found still lodged in the victim's chest. Spirit of Justice, not your favorite? Something. Gives Apollo more random backstory. No, he doesn't need more of that. Order, order. How do you explain this, Inspector? I don't... That's not your voice. It looks as though everything that the victim had on his person moved with him when he was beamed. If the screwdriver was still in his chest when the instantaneous kinesis occurred, obviously that should have been beamed to the destination as well. Oh. This is a strange situation. Even though people were saying that this instantaneous kinesis is a scientific impossibility, we're still basing arguments on the assumption that it did actually take place. Alright, time to tighten the screws here. My lord, if the prosecution is unable to explain this inconsistency in its argument, we can only conclude that the testimony given in support cannot be relied upon. Van Zeeks is over here like, you bastard. Lord Van Zeeks is stumped.
Hold it!
That was a voice line. Bastard, that's my line. Yeah. Oh, whoops, I skipped that. I have something to say, witness.
Yes, I knew it. It bears out. The equations hold. Mr. Naruhodo, don't worry.
About what?
Without delving into the details, there's no inconsistency. But even if Andrew had been lodged in Mr. Assman's chest, my trusty tool wouldn't have moved. Andrew remaining on the stage is consistent with my calculations.
What? Yeah. Would seem your illusions have been shattered. Clearly, we should hear the accused's explanation. Or should I say, this brilliant scientist's explanation? Just when I'd found an inconsistency in the prosecution's argument. Scientists. Very well, the defendant will testify again. Provide us with a scientific explanation as to why the inconsistency asserted by the defense fails to hold. I feel like I go through a journey every time I voice one of those long sentences with a... Sidion's pride as a scientist is on the line, and trust me from experience, scientists run on only pride and 3 hours of sleep. I like that this is like an actual reason to disregard this, rather than them just pushing their own narrative and being like, I don't want to acknowledge what you're saying because I want my theory to be correct. I think, completely random thing, the most bullshit, like, we're absolutely ignoring evidence thing comes from the first Ace Attorney in case 4, where you're like, hey, you know, my client couldn't have fired the gun because in the picture he's holding it with his right hand, but the prints on it are from my defendant's left hand. And then Von Karma is like, well, he could have wiped them off and then grabbed it with the other hand. And it's like, that's so fucking dumb.
In the name of Apollo, I will, my lord. Here comes justice.
I'm very excited to play through the Apollo trilogy.
To be clear, I'm still at the stage of gathering data in my research. My hypothesis states that the kinesis cannot transport metal, though, hence the metal weapon would have stayed put. In other words, the point just raised by Mr. Naruhodo isn't an inconsistency at all. Mr. Assman was the patron of my research. Without him, my work wouldn't have been possible. Now I have a duty to protect the incredible machine that we built together.
Van Zeeks, you know, Van Zeeks is like, it can't transport. Yeah, I was about to say, if it can't transport metal, it's gonna have a lot of issues. What kind of useless teleport can't move metal? What about the cage around the dead guy? Shit, you're right. There was a big-ass cage around him, wasn't there? The thrust of your testimony, Professor, is that based upon his hypothesis, metal objects cannot be moved by this method of instantaneous kinesis. In other words, since the screwdriver is made of metal, even if it remained lodged in the victim's chest, its subsequent discovery on the stage, despite the victim being found elsewhere, is not an inconsistency. Is potassium... Potassium is K, right? On the periodic table. Is potassium a metal? Is it considered a metal, or is it, like... Pine is gonna look down on me for asking that. Potassium is a metal. It's just, it's one of those things where, like, you never think of it as a metal. And therefore... Also, no more bones. And therefore, Professor Albert Harebraned could still have been the killer. Depends on who you ask. If you ask an astronomer, any element other than helium and hydrogen are considered metals. My great hypothesis holds, you see. We had to make the cage used to contain the subject from wood for that very reason. Okay. Thank you for explaining that. I was fully going to go through, because other Ace Attorney cases have totally done it, where they have a massive inconsistency like that they are just supposed to overlook. Some cases, not a lot. How the fuck is xenon gas a metal? Not addressing you, witness. Professor Harebraned. Yes. Whose side are you on here? I don't take sides, Mr. Naruhodo. No, no, no. My only interest lies in upholding my hypothesis. Yes. I'm a scientist, after all. Is he working for us or against us? It's very hard to tell. Let's see how you cross-examine this testimony, my Nipponese friend. Metals are a category on the periodic table. I thought that they were labeled as metalloids on the periodic table, which I thought was a different thing. Huh. Astronomy defines metals more on how they undergo fusion in stars and energy production than most other things. Huh. Weird. Yes, fire away, Mr. Naruhodo. Metalloids are their own thing. Am I just talking out my ass? Why are you hushing me, Squiggles? Am I getting things incredibly incorrect? To be clear, I'm still at the stage of gathering data in my research.
Hold it!
Like 4 groups on the table that have metal in their name of some sort. Pine knows their stuff when it comes to science stuff. And yet your retort to my argument wasn't lacking in confidence in any way. No scientist can find the truth without first finding self-belief. Those were the words of a certain scientist I hold in the very highest esteem. Metalloids are the elements between metallic and non-metallic elements? You realize that disproving my argument puts you in a very precarious position, don't you? No scientist should strive to protect himself more than he strives to protect the truth. More words of the same great scientist, you know? Words that are causing me a lot of trouble. Who's this scientist? I'm afraid I couldn't tell you, Mr. Naruhodo. But as soon as I remembered the magnificent genius's name, you'll be the first to know. It might be worth keeping the names of your idols to mind. You're wasting your breath, my learned friend. This scatterbrain even forgets my name at times. So Lord Van Zieks really did have a friend once. I didn't notice hell freezing over. I don't know why I like that, Metalloid sounds like it would be a team in a Mega Man game. Is it not? Isn't there something similar? Oh wait, no, I'm thinking of Reploids. Reploids are the ones from the X series. Gosh, I gotta play more Mega Man. I wanna play the Battle Network games. Those would be fun games to stream. And once I get new overlay stuff, I'd also like to stream the Star Force games because my friend John speaks very highly of the Star Force games. So, Lord Van Zieks really did have a friend once. I didn't notice hell freezing over. My hypothesis states that kinesis cannot transport metal, though. Hence, the metal weapon would have stayed put. This... Ah. Wait, no, he's got glasses on. Is that the inconsistency we're supposed to be seeing, that he's got glasses on? I was looking at this and I was like, wow, they even went through the trouble of making the buckles wooden. So, because I'm very confident in my assertion, silicon dioxide, silicon isn't metal. Oxygen isn't metal. So glass is not metal. It's not the glass in the glasses that I'm talking about, it's the metal frame.
Objection!
Yeah, there we go. Professor Harebraned, you say that according to your hypothesis, nothing made of metal can be beamed by instantaneous kinesis using the machine you made, is that right? Yes, that's right. Spot on, exactly correct. In that case, I'd ask you to have a look at this photograph that was taken at the scene. In particular, I'd like you to pay attention to the victim's face. You can clearly see that Mr. Assman is wearing a pair of spectacles with a metal rim. Look at his photograph. What? Metal? No, metal can't. It was like, metal can't. That's not metal. No! We've already established that the proposed murder weapon, the screwdriver, was found on the stage. However, your hypothesis correctly predicted that outcome. Every time I think of that song, my brain always goes to the stupid meme version that's just, look at this graph. The defense would refrain from laughing at photographs of the victim. However, if your hypothesis correctly predicted that outcome, it should also have predicted that the metal-rimmed spectacles would be found in the same place. Ah, my hypothesis! My hypothesis! Professor Harebraned, this isn't easy for me to say, but your hypothesis is clearly flawed. Ah. Order, order, order. Council. What's the implication of this? If, on the day in question, the alleged instantaneous kinesis never actually took place, then it's entirely possible that the victim was killed somewhere other than on stage. And in that case, someone other than the defendant could have been the culprit. Shit-ass scientist isn't willing to take no for an answer. That's bad science. But my hypothesis is sound. I proved it that day. The experiment was a success. The experiment was proof of all my work. I can say something here, in my capacity as a fellow of the Royal Society. Yes, sure, number 4, go ahead. As a man of science, there's one thing I simply cannot abide. And that's a fraud who pretends to be a fellow man of science. Sunk cost fallacy, yeah. What? Wait. Great Scott, are you suggesting my science is suspect? It's just been disproved, hasn't it? In front of all of us. In other words, the whole demonstration was a complete nonsense from start to finish. Believe me, my fellow jurors, when I tell you that this man is a heel, a bounder, and a fraud. They say the wreckage of that machine should be stripped down and thoroughly examined. No, never. That machine is the essence of my entire hypothesis. It's protected by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. What the devil is that blasted act all about, eh? Made up such a daft rule. I don't like the way this seems to be going. What's the best way for me to help the professor?
Objection!
Professor Harebrand has yet to perfect his invention. That would seem to be the case, yes. But even so what? Going to such trouble and expense to create a fake machine to display in public. He would have absolutely no reason to do such a thing.
Objection!
How do we have this guy be shown to also be a scientist? Of course, give him some flasks and random colored liquids. Everyone knows that that's the sign of a scientist, or if you're in an old-timey enough situation, alchemist or a witch. Sorry, give me a sec. I could totally see Harebrained having a sticky note on his forehead that says science. He had an obvious reason to do exactly that. The research grant money. Government was foolish enough to have deemed the man's ridiculous notion plausible. He and his conspirators would have received a handsome sum indeed. Conspirators?
What would be the value of such a grant? 10 pounds.
An order of magnitude out, madam. 500 pounds a year.
Oh, I could live and earn some on that much for years.
Why is this child on the jury? Society's noted an increase in bogus public demonstrations in the field of science recently. And plenty of scientists arguing with each other to get the largest slice of the funding cake. Why did the... Was that liquid always... Oh no, he shakes it and it changes color. That's cool. The children crave the mines. Greed is a plenty motive for murder, I assure you.
No, no, no. I haven't deceived anyone, least of all the government. My hypothesis is sound. The science is sound. Please, you must believe me.
Objection!
Why did the child only devour half the ear of corn before getting a new one? Yes, sure, number 4. I also love doing heavy metal inorganic chemistry in court, too. No matter how unbelievable this hypothesis may seem to you, ladies and gentlemen, the fact remains that the victim was transported instantly to the Crystal Tower. Which means that the experiment was a success.
Ah, Barak.
And therefore... It's the 1900s, what else is he supposed to do with his mercury waste? The only person who could possibly have committed this murder is the accused.
Ah, Barak.
Where is this heading? I have no idea. My lord, if I may. Yes, Lord Van Zeeks? The prosecution would like to summon new witnesses to the stand. New witnesses? What would be the nature of their involvement? They're here to testify, your lordship. Why else would they be here? They were spectators of the demonstration at the exhibition, were occupying special seats. Eyewitnesses? Very well, the court grants the prosecution's request. I should very much like to hear from the eyewitnesses to the incident. The prosecution's stance is clear. This experiment was no Postiche? The accused killed the financier victim there on the public stage, with the very eyes of the spectators. Now, my learned friend.
Oh, yes?
It's time for you to make your own stance clear. There's clearly a flaw in that professor's hypothesis. I can definitely see that. But where does that leave me? We shall take a short recess now, during which time the prosecution will prepare its new witness to take the stand. As you wish, my lord. Good. In that case, court is adjourned for 20 minutes. That was a very short court segment. That didn't even take an hour. Because we still had we had a bit of oh wait, no. That did take an hour. It took an hour and 15. I was gonna say, we started with a bit of investigation at the start of the stream, but no, we ended last stream at the to be continued sign for this section of court.
Mr. Naruhodo. What on earth were you playing at just now? Or rather, what on earth were you playing at all along?
My hypothesis! My amazing hypothesis! You've been picking holes in it from the start! Ah, sorry about that. But you promised me! You said you'd prove that dratted explosion was an accident, not murder! You said you'd keep my precious invention from falling into anyone else's hands! But all you've done so far is try to undermine me! Yes, I did make you a promise, you're right. I said that I'd believe in you and fight for your freedom to the very end. But I also told you I was no scientist. I don't understand your hypothesis. Fact is, there's an undeniable flaw in your logic, isn't there? But if I just run through some equations... Yes, you see, it's because my work is incomplete. Perhaps it is. Nevertheless, a man died as a consequence, didn't he? No! Oh no! You're right. You're so right. It's all my fault. And I have no right to blame you for my failures. I'm a disaster, not just as a scientist, but as a human being. Well, that might be a little over the top. And while we're on the subject... what about Barak? He's being awful. Claiming his old university friend to be a murderer, you mean? He's a disaster, not just as a prosecutor, but as a human being. I read prosecutor there, weirdly. No, but no. Wait, he's the Reaper, isn't he? Perhaps he's not classified as Homo sapiens anymore. If he's doing all these equations this fast under duress, he's just lazy. Should have done all this math when it was important. Well, maybe this math required information from the failed test. I still said last stream that he should have done like some sort of testing beforehand before jumping straight into human testing, but glad that's cleared up. Can I double check something with you? Yes? What? The machine and demonstration you prepared, they were based entirely on your hypothesis, I presume? There was no trickery involved. I drew the plans for that machine with my very own hands. Every line was painstakingly drawn with the firm belief that science is the only future. So yes, it's true that my hypothesis hasn't reached maturity yet. Hey, there's a typo. But please, Mr. Naruhodo, you must believe in it. All right, Professor. I understand. So, defendant. Prosecution's witnesses are ready to take the stand. Court is about to be in session again. Make your way into the courtroom, please. It all hinges on that demonstration. If the professor's hypothesis is as sound as he claims, it leaves him as the only person who could possibly have killed the victim. On the other hand, Mr. Shulms was adamant. Syllables, Mr. Naruhodo. English, motherfucker, do you speak it? A practical implementation, such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition, is quite impossible. So really, what should I be trying to prove here? name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsels for the defense and prosecution, are you ready for the new witness to testify? The prosecution is ready, my lord. As is the defense, my lord. Oh, Lord Van Zeeks. If these next witnesses saw the demonstration on the day in question with their own eyes. Yeah, like, the thing I was saying earlier before I, like, cut myself off, voicing a lot of the long, lines from the judge, they have a very, like, particular flow to them when I'm reading them out, where it's like, I go up and down with the voice a lot, where it's like, I believe the next witnesses saw the demonstration on the day in question with their own eyes. Like, you know? Indeed they did. And as luck would have it, one of them is a police detective. So the testimony we're about to hear can be considered highly reliable. Perfect. A detective of all people. It's Gina, isn't it? The prosecution's stance remains unchanged. Though it ended in tragedy, the demonstration on the day in question was scientifically sound. Consequently, the sole person with the opportunity to have committed this act of murder is the only other individual to have been present on the stage at the time, the accused. Counsel, the prosecution's position is clear. Bring forth your witnesses now. Bailiff, show the witnesses in. The witnesses whose proximity to the incident on the day in question will clarify the truth unequivocally. Yep, there she is. Witnesses, state your name and occupations for the court to hear. Oops. He's got a fire in his hat. His hat is a hot air balloon. My name is Balthazar Loon. I am impresario. All the hot air balloons in vicinity of the Experimento stage. Oh, God. No, not the German accent, please. That's some early Final Fantasy-ass stuff, yeah. No little German boy. Oh, God, how do I even want to voice this? Seems that you and Pine were on the same wavelength, Sachi. I'm just gonna read it in English for now, and we'll when we get to like words that I don't know, I'll just butcher it.
My name is Wilhelm
Gottsreich? Sigismund Ormstein. I saw that as well, Nautilus. My brain saw Ornstein.
I have come to seize the great exhibition all the way from my home in Bohemia. I'm very rich. Inspector Gina Lestrade, Scotland Yard. I'm a great detective, even Erlock Sholmes agrees.
Yeah, same.
I was on security duty at the exhibition, and I got to go up in one of them balloons. It was amazing.
Gina, again. But she did mention that she'd seen the disaster from up in a balloon, actually, didn't she? Clearly, she loved every minute of it. There were wow. Sip of water time, I guess. There were 3 balloons flying near the public experimentation stage when the incident occurred. 2 of these witnesses were in one such balloon at the time, saw events unfold from the skies above. You make it sound like they were in the clouds. It was only an altitude of circa 60 feet. Very low.
Well, can't see nothing if you fly too high, can ya?
60 feet. About 18 meters then. Stupid question. Does England use feet? I should know the answer to this. Like, this is 100% a very stupid question. God, I really am turning into a VTuber, aren't I? England doesn't use freedom units, so they use meters. Thank you for your introductions. Now you will give your formal testimony for the court. Kindly describe. Wow. Kindly describe exactly what you witnessed, especially those of you who had a vantage point above the stage. It was an accidente, terrible. I'm only grateful that my balloons were not damaged.
And there's this huge bang from the stage, and then next second, another bang in the sky beside us. And from amidst the smoke, a cage appeared out of nowhere.
America stole the imperial system from England back in yonder days, but England switched back over a time period. Or long before the time period of this game. America just hasn't changed over since we adopted Imperial. The cage. It fell from the sky like a stone and crashed into the crystal tower.
I didn't get a good look inside the cage, but no one went near it after it crashed into the tower.
Most extraordinary collective account, I must say. Could I just clarify something? There's a detail in the witness's testimony that I've not heard any mention of until now. Whose drip? Gina's? Specifically, that there were 2 explosions? More precisely, 2 explosions in 2 separate places, yes. Yeah, I like Gina's outfit a lot. When the demonstration began, the balloon carrying the 2 witnesses was around here. There were other balloons in the air nearby at the time, carrying other passengers as well, to be clear. Then, as power was supplied to the machine for demonstration, the first explosion occurred. The so-called birdcage that contained the victim disappeared from the stage, and a moment later, a second explosion occurred directly adjacent to the balloon carrying the witnesses. The birdcage appeared at the site of the explosion, subsequently to plummet down into the crystal tower.
I was very surprised. Suddenly a cage appeared before my eyes. person inside. Yeah. The blast was so hot, but I didn't want to miss a thing, and so I kept my eyes wide.
I don't know if this is, like...
I still have lots of money.
I don't know what voice I should give to the kid. Like, I think it's fine where it's at. I just don't know if I should drop it down a little bit or keep it where it's at. Precisely, who is this curious infant? I'm told he's a young noble of Bohemian royalty. Apparently, he disguised himself in order to steal unnoticed into the Great Exhibition.
Yeah, I am here in London on sightseeing trip with my elementary school.
You'll have the benefit of a child's point of view in the testimony. Really need that? Can he sing a rhapsody?
Then I remove my mask. This is what I look like.
Ah yes, I see. Delightful face, I'm sure. I don't think you do see.
Yeah, everybody says so.
You know, okay, the German accent is significantly easier than the very far north English accent that Gina has. Great disguise, then. The point is, the testimony of these witnesses further substantiates the facts for the court. Namely, that despite ending in an explosion, instantaneous kinesis was successfully demonstrated. And furthermore, until the arrival of the police, no one approached the Crystal Tower, wherein the victim fell. Therefore, only the accused who was with Mr. Assman on the stage could possibly have committed the murder. Yes, thank you, counsel. The prosecution's views on the matter are quite clear. Oh, the defense's cross-examination now, please. Yes, my lord. This kid is the okay. One of the very few Sherlock Holmes stories that I am, like, tangentially aware of is the Sherlock Holmes story, A Scandal in Bohemia. And the thought just crossed my mind that's just like, this kid is the love child of the king from that story, and Irene Adler also from that story. It was an incident terrible. I'm only grateful that my balloons were not damaged.
Hold it!
There were 3 balloons flying above the experimentation stage at the time, I understand. See. All 3 of them, my... Bellissimi Bambini. I swear I'm gonna end up offending someone with these shitty accents and shitty pronunciations. They're very popular, see... What? Some people will pay £10 for one ride. £10? It's more than my annual stipend.
£20 a month. That is my pocket money.
Whales have all the luck.
I got it there for free, I did. Played the old I work for Her Majesty's police card, you know?
Detectives have all the luck. Being horrible pronouncing anything not English is very English as well. Like, I can take a decent stab at pronouncing words, but like as multiple of the people that are in chat can attest to, I am horrible when it comes to specifically French. Like French and Spanish. Like, I can kind of make assumptions with Spanish, but French specifically, absolutely kicks my ass. If they're so popular, why would you only be operating in such, why would you only be operating such small number of balloons though? Because if I have too many in the skies, they could crash into each other. The operators for the balloons were decided by lots, with each operator manning a particular area. Let's see, and the zone above public experimentation stage is the most profitable. The other impresarios? They hate me. Thank you, witness. I think the court has a clear picture of the arrangements for balloon rides at the exhibition. Perhaps we could hear more about what you actually witnessed of the incident.
Right. I can fill you in there, my lord. There's this huge bang from the stage, and the next second, another bang in the sky besides us.
Hold it!
I feel like, okay, completely random thing. I feel like I have these weird days with Ace Attorney where, like, days like last night, I feel like I'm struggling really hard to maintain consistent voices. And then other days like today, I feel like I'm pretty consistent at getting onto the correct voice for the characters. And it feels like they alternate. So you actually saw the accident happen from up in the air.
Yep, isn't it amazing what a detective gets to do, eh? I'm telling you, Odo, being a lawyer's a mug's game. You should join the force and we could go flying together.
You know me so well. Yes, well, anyway, could you tell us exactly what you saw, do you think?
Everything. We saw everything. Because we were up above it all. That dodgy cove climbing into that cage, and that dodgy professor pulling on all them levers. And that's when it happened. And that's where... that's when there was that massive bang and the cage disappeared just like that.
Describing the moment the subject's body was decomposed by the electricity, I believe.
I didn't know what to make of it. But then there was another bang right in the ear. I looked around and there was a huge great fireball right next to us in the sky. There was nothing there before.
Excuse me.
Master Gotts, does your memory of the day differ?
My teacher at elementary school said that when you meet someone for the first time, you should always use their full name.
Yes, what was it again?
Wilhelm Gottfried Sigismund Ormstein.
The last word, Ormstein came out. Just the four names then? The point is, do you have something to say? Something to add in response to Detective Gina Lestrade's last remark, perhaps?
Boy, get it right, Odo. That's Inspector Lestrade.
Why does everyone have a problem with how I address them at the moment?
That is not what I saw.
Oh?
Yeah. There was a second explosion, and it was right beside our balloon. That is true. But I'm sure. Which is what I said, ain't it? 1 minute there was nothing there, next a massive explosion. My teacher at elementary school said that when someone else is speaking, if you are rude enough to interrupt, you'll have the most awful life imaginable.
Are all Bohemians brought up to be so full of joy?
Just before the second explosion happened next to our balloon, I clearly witnessed a green balloon flying into the sky.
Green balloon?
Eh? You what? I never saw nothing like that. Well, I did. I saw it. And you can't say I didn't. I will complain to the council. I will cry and scream. My testimony is the truth. I am Bohemian Prince. You cannot say it is a lie. That is not allowed. Playing the bleeding royalty card, are ya? Typical.
As the orphan who likes to remind people she works for Her Majesty's police. What? Naruhodo, why did you have to bring in the fact that she was an orphan? What did that have to do with your statement? That was just mean. In that case, young man, I must ask you to amend your formal testimony. It's important to the case. In the interest of the cordial nation relations between Great Britain and Bohemia.
It was not the skies that exploded. It was a green balloon that was next to ours at the time.
So that's what the green canvas is here, right? I'm very confident.
Objection!
Clearly, it seems my confidence was placed correctly. That last statement would seem to be at odds somehow with the evidence. George asked counsel to explain the somehows of the court, not the other way around. Just seems to jar, though, don't you think? What I think is that this whole exchange has been extremely jarring, yes? Perhaps I need to reconsider this.
Hold it!
A green balloon, you say? Are you sure about that?
Of course I'm sure. I'm a proud Bohemian prince. All these questions are making me boring.
Making me boring. Okay, I thought I read that wrong for a sec. I think you mean bored.
English is very annoying. The language of my countrymen is far superior.
Ragazzo? What? It is very wrong to lie.
Lie?
Like balloons never explode. For the same reason the planets never explode. It is logical. Please tell me that doesn't mean logical.
If you insult me, you insult all of Bohemia. My die.
That was not your voice.
I will have the army come and shoot all of your stupid balloons out of the sky. All of them.
I just realized that this guy's name is Loon. Oh, your highness. That was... If only all international incidents were so easily resolved. Now that peaceful relations have been restored here in the courtroom, perhaps we could return to the testimony. You also see the moment that the cage materialized, Mr. Loon. No, I did not see the explosion myself. However... The cage. It fell from the sky like a stone and crashed into the crystal tower.
Hold it!
Did you see that actually happen? No, not in reality, I did not. I saw after it hit the tower. There was a grand confusion around the stage. I ran to see what had happened. I was terrorized by the idea that one of my balloons had crashed. I suppose they are his livelihood. But when I looked up to the sky, all my precious balloons were still there.
I saw it though. I saw it slam into the tower. After all, I'm a detective now.
Tell us what you saw, Inspector Lestrade.
That's what I like to hear. I didn't get a good look inside the cage, but no one went near it after it crashed into the tower.
Hold it!
Was it you who gave the order to keep people away?
Use your head, Odo. How could it have been me? I was up in the balloon, weren't I?
Right.
So, because I weren't available, it was the boss who had to leg it over there. He was getting shoved and kicked all over by the panicking spectators as he tried to seal off the scene. It was a real sight to behold, I can tell ya. Amazing.
Or Inspector Gregson.
And so, anyway, I couldn't see the cage that well because of all the smoke. And I didn't really want to see, to be honest. I was scared out of me wits.
Keep it together, Inspector. Also, that's really funny. That pose doesn't quite work the way that it originally was intended, because she originally had the bag on her other shoulder in her first model. Prosecution really is asserting that the demonstration was genuine. What if it was actually some kind of switch-around trick instead? That would mean that the victim was never actually on the stage in the first place. The two explosions would have thrown everyone watching into a panic for sure. I think I need to find out more about what exactly people saw at the time. Okay, so... Oh, wait, what? I think...
And what appears out of the flames? The cage, that's what.
That description sounds like the moment after the man was beamed instantaneously through space.
It's mind-blowing, isn't it? But that was but that's the 20th century for you, I reckon.
It's the people who actually saw the demonstration with their own eyes really believe they saw something miraculous taking place. Do I need to, like, investigate the balloon here? I'm gonna hit the game with another confidence save. I'm gonna present this, just because this shows where the balloons were and the balloon isn't over next to where the body landed.
Objection!
Nope. Defense would like to rewind time, my lord. So it's not this. What? Huh. Oh, wait, am I supposed to put this here? Maybe?
Objection!
Okay. Ugh. That, I don't agree with that. I see why it's like that. I don't agree with it. It should have been the other statement where it's like, hey, I saw a green balloon pop. Mr. Loon, in your testimony, you said that all three of the balloons you had operating at the time were undamaged. See, that is correct. If they had been caught in the explosions, it would have been terrible. I wonder if you might know what this is. I think it may be. See, part of a balloon. A burnt piece of the fabric of the envelope. Sorry? The envelope? Pardon. That is the large round part of the balloon which becomes filled with hot air. It is made from very thick fabric lined with rubber. You do not want it to rip when you're in the sky. Just as I thought. This piece of cloth was found near the experimentation stage. In other words, as Master Gotts testified, a green balloon did indeed explode that day. If all the balloons in the sky above the experimentation stage belong to you, Mr. Loon, then your statement that they were all undamaged, it clearly contradicts the evidence. No. Balloon exploded that day, why didn't the man say so?
Maybe everyone on board was killed.
Oh no, having just spent 10 whole pounds for the experience. How awful. I feel like those things crash 50% of the time anyway. The instantaneous kinesis did occur, but after the explosion on stage, the point of materialization shifted to a location occupied by a balloon. Causing the balloon to explode? Yes, eminently plausible. An unfortunate traffic accident, as it were, but it changes nothing about the pertinent facts. This I cannot accept. Why not, Mr. Loon? You are suggesting that I am a liar. That person's died in a balloon incident. There's no need to get fired up, Mr. Loon. The victim was the sole fatality that day. That's right, and I prove it. Balthazar Loon is not a liar. There is no such balloon in the sky. It's non-possible. You're saying it's impossible. Why? This court has more important matters to discuss than the number of balloons that were operating that day.
Objection!
But we can't ignore the fact that nobody appears to have known anything about this other balloon until now. My lord, the defense calls for further testimony from Mr. Loon. I concur. There's clearly more to the truth here than meets the eye. It's imperative that we clear up the issue of this phantom balloon, I feel. Witness, you will give supplementary testimony about the balloons you are operating at the exhibition. Can I see, my lord? Gosh, why am I suddenly so tired? You ever just get those, like, random hits of, like, your brain being like, hey, by the way, you're tired now. Have fun. As I said, Balthazar Loon is no liar. Every balloon I had in the sky landed safely. All 3 of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground in an explosion, what a catastrophe.
But you can't get away from the fact that a burnt-up bit of the cloth was found at the scene, can ya? The coppers at the yard reckoned it was probably some debris thrown from the explosion on the stage.
This stupido... So, I still don't know how to pronounce that. He's mistaken. My balloons have the red and blue zigzag stripes anyway. Your assertion is that the balloon this child saw was not one belonging to you? Si, exactamente. if he saw a balloon in the first place. I do not like the sound of it. It's very bad for business. I have a good mind to sue the land of Bohemia.
If you attack us, we will fight back. It will be war, all out war.
What happened to all-out war? Mr. Loon certainly doesn't appear to be lying. But that doesn't change the fact that the testimony and the evidence are contradictory here. If the defense is unable to find fault with the witness's statements, the court must consider them the truth. Think long and hard on that, my learned friend. The situation has clearly changed now. I have to get to the bottom of what happened here, no matter what it takes. So you may now cross-examine the witness. Gosh, I keep getting the yawns. As I said, Balthazar Loon is no liar. Every balloon I had in the sky landed safely.
Hold it!
You couldn't just forgotten one, maybe. How do you pronounce? Is this pronounced as like the Spanish word senor? That's what my brain reads it as, although I'm probably wrong. I might not notice if I was given 100 lentils and one was missing. But we're talking about 3 enormous balloons. Do you believe I could make a mistake about something so grand and expensive? I took the liberty of having Inspector Gregson check this gentleman's warehouse. I have the report here. It clearly says a total of 3 balloons. Here, no mistake has been made, then. Surely Miss Lestrade could have been sent for such a menial task.
What, me?
Wow, that came out wrong. My voice cracked halfway through that.
I'll tell you what I told the boss. East End kids like me can only count up to 2. Obviously that ain't true, but the boss bought it and said he'd have to go in himself in that case.
All 3 of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground in an explosion, what a catastrophe!
Hold it!
Quite a catastrophe if they fell to the ground for any reason, I think. On that note, Mr. Loon, tell me, what is it that keeps these balloons in the sky? Are you an idiota? Sorry? That is like asking, why does a candle burn bright? It burns bright because it burns bright, and a balloon flies because it flies. What else? Must be Italian for I don't know. There are 2 types of flying balloons, hot air balloons and gas balloons. Hot air balloons work on the principle of hot air being less dense than cold air, whereas gas balloons derive their lift by using a gas that is lighter than air. See, and my balloons are filled with the magic gas, I believe. Hydrogen. Lighter than air, but highly explosive. Good lord. I do not permit smoking of the cigarettes in any of my balloons. The magic gas does not like fire. Even a small spark of static electricity could cause the entire balloon to explode. Hindenburg inbound. What is the matter with you, senor? All that comes out of your mouth is explosion, explosion. I tell you, my balloons are perfectly safe. They have to be, or I cannot eat. None of my balloons exploded that day, I'm completely sure. But if you still say that is what happened, you must show me the proof. Alright, so Mr. Loon had 3 balloons in the air that day. None of them were damaged. Then what was the one that exploded?
But you can't get away from the fact that the burnt-up bit of cloth was found at the scene, can ya?
Hold it!
I was surprised to find the piece of fabric still at the scene, actually. Didn't you search that area surrounding the stage for clues?
Nah, I'm not into picking up stuff off the ground, me. Always works out way better diving into people's pockets instead.
So much for the new career path.
Mind you, the boss was on his hands and knees picking up all kinds of rubbish from the floor. The thing is, though, Cage went crashing into the Crystal Tower, didn't it? And so that's where most of the investigating was going on.
Then so, I would have thought someone from Scotland Yard would have gathered it up as evidence.
Cool. Listen to you.
Wow, that came out wrong.
You stumble across a bit of balloon and suddenly you're the best investigator in the world.
Pardon?
Well, you ain't got a badge, have ya? Like this one. I could arrest you with this if I wanted to.
I wouldn't put it past her.
Come to think of it, there was talk of some scorching on the ground at a meeting we had about the investigation. The coppers at the yard reckon it was probably some debris thrown from the explosion on the stage.
Hold it!
There was considerable damage to the stage and the surrounding area, wasn't there?
Yeah, some of the cobs were watching the experiments were caught in the blast and injured. Good job the old contraption didn't keel over, eh?
I hadn't even considered that. It seems there was a great panic after the incident occurred. Nevertheless, the police shouldn't have missed a torn piece of the envelope from a balloon. Inspector Gregson can expect repercussions.
Like me swiping all his fish and chips, eh?
The man's sole pleasure. I don't know why that line got me. That line is really funny to me. None of this matters. That scrap of balloon envelope means nothing. Niente. This stupid old ragazzo. He's mistaken. My balloons have the red and blue zigzag stripes anyway.
Hold it!
You mean the color's wrong? Si, senor. I do not have any green balloons in my warehouse. Thank you for the hydrate. Si, senor. I do not have any green balloons in my warehouse. This guy's voice has been all over the place. And yet, a piece of green cloth was found at the scene, and it's unmistakably from a balloon. Well, I do not know how that can be. For the sake of argument, let's say that a green balloon did explode above the stage. You couldn't therefore conclude that it happened on the day in question. Why not? There have been recreational balloon flights over Hyde Park operating from before the Great Exhibition. One could have exploded on some earlier date. Unfortunate, as I'm sure you'd agree. You believe it may have been from some earlier balloon accident that predates the exhibition. See. Exactamente. As the signor says, it's not from one of my balloons. Clearly this little ragazzo from Bohemia is mistaken about what he saw.
Excuse me.
it's Master Wilhelm Gottfried Sigismund Ormstein.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, something's very wrong. I know what I saw. There was a green balloon there. I swear it. I swear over all Bohemia.
Speak as much bad language as you like, but it changes nothing. Not have evidence, Ragazo. Tell your parents to punish you, eh? Perhaps we'll let the judge decide when it comes to punishments.
Evidence? What is this evidence?
Give a simple example, young man. Photograph, for instance. Some tangible proof of what you claim.
Well, why didn't you say sooner? I have the photograph here.
Good gracious. What?
I had not been up in the balloon for a little while, so I was very excited. I took lots and lots of photographs. Of the Crystal Tower, of the Bohemian exhibit, of the streets of London, of the hot eel cellar, the balloon.
And the instantaneous kinesis experiment. Did you take a picture of that?
Yeah, one picture.
Really? You did take one.
But all I wanted was to ride in a balloon. I was not interested in boring experiments.
Never mind that. Can you show us that photograph?
Of course, and then you will see. You will see that I'm not lying. That I really did see a green balloon. Well, I see you are all too shocked to speak.
Yes, I think shocked is indeed the word, young man.
Yeah, perhaps you cannot see that it was a green balloon from this photograph, but that is not my fault. That is the fault of the stupid person who made the camera.
Why did the... Cries in Bohemian. That's one very Bohemian sounding cry. Very well. Court will accept this photograph as evidence.
It's not my fault. It's the fault of the person who made the camera.
Well, never mind. I'm sure you have plenty of wonderful sepia memories to take home with you. In any case, when exactly did you take that photograph?
Well, it was on the day of the big explosion.
Don't say.
When I pressed the shutter release, there was this very loud bang. And a hot wind rushed over my face.
That means... this photograph was taken a split second before the explosion occurred. Well, if you ask me, this black and white photograph changes nothing. Could not give a flying fig. Lovely language you picked up. As I thought, Mr. Loon's testimony just doesn't quite add up. The young Bohemian boy claims to have seen another fourth balloon. But Mr. Loon vehemently denies the possibility. And it's hard to imagine the man in charge could be mistaken about the number that were in the air. Still, this inconsistency must tell us something, I'm sure. Fucking Aquaman. Every time I think of Aquaman now, it's tinted by the H Bomber guy quote of him just going, "Then who do the secularists pray to? Fucking Aquaman!" I don't know if that's what you were referencing, Taco, but like, that's what my brain read it as a reference to. That is what you were referencing?
Objection!
What? No. Fuck off, game. That is correct. I'm mad about that. That was correct. Because there is a contradiction here. There's no red and blue zigzags on this balloon. Three of my balloon carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground in an explosion, what a catastrophe. I don't see what the contradiction's supposed to be here. Oh. Okay. I see why this is correct. But I'm also mad that the zigzag on the balloon doesn't count. Because 100%, you should be able to point out the fact that there's no zigzag on that balloon. It's the fact that there's nobody in the picture.
Objection!
Unfortunately, the photograph Master Gotts took can't tell us the color of the balloon. But it can tell us something else. Something crucially important. What? It shows that the pictured balloon wasn't carrying any passengers. Ah, my goodness, you're right. Hey Zappelli, how are you doing? Fun, easy, and free, pouring pond water in your socks. But surely all the balloons would have been carrying passengers. There would be no sense in it otherwise. See, they're for pleasure, seeing the view. My balloons only fly with passengers. Which tells us that the pictured balloon isn't one of them. So when the incident occurred that day, there was a fourth balloon in the skies above the experimentation stage. The mysterious green balloon. I know nothing. Stop, please. Someone mentioned tax evasion. Let's go. I still need to play Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion, especially since the sequel is out now. Okay. Pelly, don't make that joke. Next game should be Turnip Boy, should be 1 or 2 streams. I said don't make that joke. I know nothing. Niente. I can only tell you one thing. If this balloon was not carrying passengers, then it was not one of mine.
Objection!
But other than that, how are you doing, Zappelli? There are illegal tradesmen everywhere you care to look. Clearly, one such entrepreneur decided to capitalize on the opportunity presented by the Great Exhibition. Managed to operate balloon flights on Mr. Loon's patch without him realizing. See the competition trying to steal my profits. Gonna move to Pittsburgh, ideally? Interesting. I hope that your move goes smoothly. Because moves can be a pain in the ass. Like, you gotta get everything in boxes and then, like, ship it. Or drive it all the way out to where you're moving to. Cannot vibe with this country life. Yeah. Understandable. I did not notice because of the experimento that went wrong on stage. This 4th balloon exploded at the very same moment Mr. Assman was beamed from the stage below.
Right. It's them scraps that fell to the ground after and left them scorch marks.
Moved 30 hours east of you and that wasn't good for your old man bones.
But they didn't come from the stage at all. It was bits of the balloon raining down. Because no one was in it, it didn't get no attention.
Mysterious 4th balloon carrying no passengers, silently floating over the experimentation stage. What caused it to blow up, though? This photograph shows us nothing more. Stray balloon carrying no one and operated by some rogue trader. Clearly it has nothing to do with the case. Its relevance does elude me, I must say. The court has seen sufficient evidence and heard ample testimony already. The prosecution calls for this trial to be concluded. Really? We really got to the truth yet? No. I can't let this opportunity slip away. The jurors' minds are made up, and not in our favor. What else can this photograph tell us? There's nothing more we can learn from it? Or is there nothing more we can learn from it? There's more.
Objection!
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, wait. Please don't give your decisions yet. The photograph from Master Gotts may well be hiding one more clue. What's that? A vital clue. Waluigi looking ass.
Objection!
We're well past the point of mere possibilities. It's time for definitives now. So tell the court. What exactly does this alleged clue in the photograph prove? Oh, cause of the explosion, it's this right here. We can reasonably assume that the pictured balloon was destroyed in the searing heat of the explosion.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. It was not my fault.
Evidently. Because the birdcage from the kinesis machine materialized in the sky where it had been flying. The balloon, being filled with flammable hydrogen, instantly and explosively ignited.
Objection!
No, that's not what happened. What? It would appear that this photograph requires closer examination. As for the defense, you will highlight the location of this alleged clue in the photograph for the court. Also, Sachi, you said that Turnip Boy should be the next stream. I'm actually thinking of another short game for the next bit of streams. I've had a really big urge to play more Metroid, and I kind of want to play Super Metroid. I make no promises that that will be what's next, but Super Metroid is coming, and it's probably coming soon. Prime 2 is probably also coming soon. I want to see what Prime 2 looks like with the, like, HD texture pack for the Dolphin version of it. I wonder if it, like, matches up at all to how good Prime Remastered looks. Of course, my lord. You look closely, it's plain enough to see. What's shown is linked to another piece of evidence we have. In a way, that leads to an unbelievable conclusion. The clue heavily suggests that the real reason the balloon exploded is...
Take that!
The timing of this photograph can only be described as miraculous. If you look, you'll notice there's a bright white line that appears to point directly at the balloon. Most likely a ray of light caught incidentally on the film. I'm afraid I can see nothing of the sort. If you look with a magnifying glass, my lord, it becomes clear what the nature of this bright light really is. Goodness, what is that? I believe some flash of light, yes.
Oh, golly. Do you think it might be lightning?
Couldn't have been a finer day. I believe we may be looking at a fire. Bolt of fire heading straight for the balloon. Like an arrow. Indeed. Even to my aging eyes, it would appear to be a flame of some sort. My word. Are you suggesting this flame struck the hydrogen gas that filled the balloon?
Objection!
That's absurd. The balloon would have been 60 feet above the ground at the time. No flame could possibly have reached such a height.
Objection!
Actually, it's my opinion that a particular piece of evidence found at the scene reveals how that is exactly what did happen. What evidence? If such evidence exists, Counsel, then for goodness sake, present it, man. Which evidence explains this mysterious streak of flame that appears to be headed directly for the balloon?
Take
I'm gonna
that!
point this crossbow at you, my lord. This was found hidden at the foot of a small ornamental tree near the scene. Good lord, is that a crossbow? An arrow dipped in oil and set alight could have been shot from this weapon, sending a flaming arrow straight into the hydrogen-filled balloon. Are you suggesting that crossbow was used to deliberately...
Blimey, you're right. That streak of light in the photo looks just like an arrow, doesn't it?
Then, the explosion of the balloon, it was... very likely the result of a flaming arrow from this crossbow igniting the hydrogen gas inside it. No. Order, order. Counsel, This is an extraordinary supposition. If the aim was to cause the balloon to explode, the shooter could have used a gun, of course. However, there's an obvious reason why that would have been out of the question. The noise of the discharge. Of course. That's right. By using a crossbow, the projectile could be fired at the balloon silently.
Well, yeah. If someone had shot a gun off at the exhibition grounds, it would have caused a real panic.
With the big explosion, there's a very big panic anyway, no? I don't like this. I should be pleased to have found a plausible new explanation for all this. Something feels wrong.
Objection!
Do you understand the implications of what you're saying, my Nipponese friend? A flaming arrow did indeed hit the balloon. Then obviously it would have exploded. And if the birdcage appeared from the cloud of smoke that ensued.
What? Wait a minute. What are you really saying here? I don't get it. Was the birdcage beamed up into the sky after all? Or what?
My goodness me. Ah, now I understand. That's what that sinking feeling is about. I think there's a good chance. The birdcage was actually concealed inside the balloon all along. What? Did I just hear that correctly, Counsel? First game is in, like, Ace Attorney 1, or first game is in the first grade Ace Attorney? Did I just hear that correctly, Counsel? There's no going back now. Horse is bolted. Ace Attorney 1. It's a good game. Let's assume, as I said, that the birdcage was hidden inside the green balloon from the start. On stage, when the experiment was started, the birdcage and the instantaneous kinesis machine disappeared in a cloud of smoke. At that moment, a flaming arrow was fired from the ground, causing the green balloon to explode and drawing the attention of the spectators to the sky above their heads. From amid the smoke, the hidden birdcage then appeared to fall down and crash into the crystal tower. I think you'll all agree, it's entirely plausible that what I've just described is the real truth behind the miraculous experiment carried out that day. Good grief!
Objection!
This is ludicrous. What you've described is no science experiment. It's child's play. A contemptible display of stage magic. Both Mr. Sholmes and Iris said that the experiment was a scientific impossibility. In which case, this is the only way to explain what happened that day. In any case, the victim's body was found inside the birdcage in the crystal tower. If the instantaneous kinesis didn't take place, how do you explain that? If I may put in a word, as a man of magic myself. The more I look at this guy, the more he is reminding me of Waluigi. This is Waluigi before he became friends with Wario. Such apparent discrepancies can easily be explained by some simple deception. Juror number 3. All that would be needed is a doppelganger, someone who looked very similar to the victim, Mr. Assman. And having this other man appear on stage in front of to front the show as a body double. Yes, of course. So in fact, Mr. Assman must have been inside the birdcage that was concealed inside the balloon right from the start.
Objection!
That balloon would have been filled with hydrogen. Anything hidden inside it would have been scattered to the four winds when it exploded. No one would have no one would ever have embarked on such a risky venture. Not necessarily. The explosive force of the balloon gas would very much depend on the mixture ratio. Juror number 4. This feels so good having the jurors, like, stomp out Van Zeeks' statements. It feels so good. Flying balloons are rarely filled with pure hydrogen. A mixture of other gases, such as helium as well. Helium on its own doesn't explode. By controlling the gas mixture ratio, the explosive force can be altered. The mixture ratio. Obviously, the victim's body would have suffered some burns. That would be unavoidable. But not to such an extent as to render this whole obscene charade impossible. So, does the autopsy report mention that he had burn marks? No, it doesn't. He seems to be in good condition here. So everything that happened can be explained, logically and scientifically. The explosion that engulfed the stage at the start of the experiment was no accident. It was all part of an elaborate deception to make it appear that that instantaneous kinesis had occurred. Well, goodness me. And if we accept that if we accept that this is what happened, it means that the victim, Mr. Assman, was never present on the public experimentation stage to begin with. In short, he couldn't have been killed by the defendant, who was on stage in full view the entire time. Ugh. This will be very hard for the prosecution to counter. Lord Van Zeeks can't credibly maintain that Professor Harebraned is a suspect now. The fact that, is this Harebraned? Mr. Naruhodo, I appreciate your efforts. Thank you. Professor? But you can stop now. Just keep your mouth shut, please. Sorry? What's all this about, Mr. Harebraned? I, Albert Harebraned, hereby confess that it was me who stabbed Mr. Odie Assman. Yes, it was me, with my faithful friend and partner, Andrew the Screwdriver. What are you doing? Hey Natalie, how are you doing? Welcome in. Order, order, order. Defendant, explain the sudden confession.
Objection!
Professor Harebraned, what are you talking about? It's what I've said all along. I must protect my hypothesis and my precious machine. You stand there and claim it was all a trick, all an elaborate prank, but where's your proof? No, you'd have to examine the machine if you wanted to prove it, but then it would all be over. My beautiful hypothesis would be laid bare. I mean, the indignity of it. It's clear that you drew the plans for the experiment, but you didn't actually build it. It's quite conceivable that you were duped, Professor. If you'll just let me... Barak! Yes? I'll cooperate. I'll do whatever you say, I swear it. So please. Ensure that the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act is adhered to and protect my creation. Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice at this critical juncture. Here's to my learned Nipponese friend.
What?
And his upcoming attempt to clarify the defense's position in light of the accused's confession. Do you intend to formally assert that the experiment was nothing more than a conjuring trick? Because the moment you do, this, the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act that protects the professor's invention will cease to apply. Prosecution will then demand a rigorous examination of the machinery involved in order to establish the truth. However, if you acknowledge that the machine is genuine and instrumental to the victim's murder, any chance of investigating will be crushed, the confidentiality of the professor's hypothesis preserved. Well, counsel, what's the defense's official position in this matter?
What Professor Harebraned, my client, actually asked of me was to prove that the explosion on stage was an accident, protect the secrecy of his hypothesis. But there's no way to do that without implying the professor's guilt. Will I protect my client's life by asserting his innocence? Or do I uphold my client's request but see him condemned? Either way, I can't avoid betraying his trust.
You've been silent long enough. Isn't talking your trade, my learned friend? Or has all knowledge of English escaped your confused Nipponese mind?
Mr. Naruhodo, there's no escape here. I have to make a choice. But it's an impossible one. I have to give up on something, but what? Defense asserts that the defendant's instantaneous kinesis machine was in fact
Have fun with Van Zeeks and his ex gaslighting Runo. Have a good night, Sachi. I honestly don't know. Cause like, the angle that I want to play with this is, it is a proper scientific invention. It's just that it wasn't built to the professor's specifications and was used as a conjuring trick. These two things aren't mutually exclusive. No, I can't say it. My client placed his faith in me. I can't just let him down. What I must give up on is not the question you have to ask yourself here. It's what can I protect? That was a very good impression of Van Zeeks.
What must I give up on is not the question you have to ask yourself here. It's what can I protect? Hello again, Mr. Naruhodo. It's been far too long.
Susato-san! But what are you... First Susato takedown in 6 months.
There will be time to talk later, Mr. Naruhodo. For now, we must concentrate on the task at hand.
Working out, not what I have to give up on. But what I can protect. Professor Harebrained. Yes? Yesterday you told me that science is the pursuit of truth. Well, my job is to pursue the truth too. Yes, of course. And personally, I believe that you didn't stab Mr. Assman. I believe you've come to realize something yourself too, haven't you? That your experiments and the machine you built with the victim are questionable. The truth behind that is what we must both pursue now. So, you've finally opened your eyes. What? And as for you, Albert, you can't ignore this any longer. Having heard from my learned friend's assertion, don't you have something to say?
Barak.
Lord Van Zeeks.
Gosh, I've never heard him speak that way before.
In truth, there's one thing. Something I've remembered that's of relevance. What? On the day it happened, just before I began the experiment, I saw a man near the stage. A man holding that crossbow. I beg your pardon? Professor, did the man have any distinguishing features? What did he look like? Taller than me, and thinner than me, with straight hair, straighter and whiter than mine. Let me see. One less lens than me too. A monocle, a rather stylish black monocle. But one thing in particular will help to positively identify the man, you see. I know him very well. After all, he's the engineer who built my invention.
Gosh, I've never heard of Lord Van Zeeks being that gay before.
What? He built the machine? That's right. Mr. Assman introduced him to me a year ago. He's a man by the name of Enoch Drebber. Enoch Drebber. Enoch Drebber? Does this name mean something? Members of the jury seem flustered. Any scientist wishes to hear, and's an abomination. Not a name any conjurer wishes to hear either. Who on earth is he? Afraid this isn't the first tale of this nature that I've heard in scientific circles in connection with that name. There's talk of other flamboyant experiments turn out to be nothing but stage trickery in the end. Obviously, the rascal is after the government's research grant money. When magicians are in need of money, I've heard of them resorting to these underhanded tactics. Some acquaintances of mine with experience of such things have mentioned Enoch Drebber's name before. And is both an engineer and a magician, yes. We're dealing with an unparalleled confidence trickster here. That's Enoch Drebber for you. So it's true then. My invention, my great machine, it was just a grand illusion. Considering what we've just heard about Mr. Drebber's character, sorry to say that sounds increasingly likely. Even though no one else believed it, I wanted to. I wanted to believe that machine would function exactly as my hypothesis predicted. Which is why you were so opposed to it being investigated, I presume. I knew that if the machine was examined in detail, its construction would give away my hypothesis. Obviously, I didn't want that to happen, but at the same time, I knew that if it was found to be nothing more than a trick, than a work of deception, then everything I'd worked towards, all my research, all my dreams, my whole life would be over. I was terrified at the prospect. So you really had no idea then, did you? About the true nature of the machine that was built, and the true nature of Mr. Drebber. I never questioned anything. I didn't want to question it. It's entirely possible that Mr. Assman and Mr. Drebber were working together to use you as a means of fraudulently acquiring the research grant money. When I announced my invention to the crowds that day, it was the finest moment of my career. I pulled all the levers and turned all the dials in exactly the way Drebber had described. When the smoke suddenly started billowing out, I panicked. I didn't know what was happening. But I really don't know how the whole illusion was made to work. I don't know anything anymore. Let me confirm one final point with you, Professor. Do you now consent to the prosecution submitting the necessary paperwork to release your invention from the protection afforded by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act? Yes. Please go ahead. I'm very sorry. It would appear that we shall have to suspend proceedings for the remainder of the day now. Lord Van Zieks? My lord. Court has newly been made aware of another party whose involvement in this matter is critical. Yes, Mr. Drebber. Gather information about the man, if possible. I should like him served with a subpoena. With pleasure, my lord. Now, counsel for the defense. Yes, my lord. Reconvene, I shall be looking for one thing and one thing alone from you. Evidence that the defendant is innocent of the crime for which he presently stands accused. I understand. Good. In that case, this court is adjourned until tomorrow morning. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? I'm so sorry. I was wrong. You were right. I tricked you. You trusted me. I dragged you into my mess. Oh, how did it ever come to this? I'm so sorry. Did you really have no idea, Professor? About what Mr. Drebber was really up to, I mean. About what he was really constructing. Naturally. That machine was the embodiment of my hypothesis. All of my hopes and dreams. I had complete faith in it. Alright. In that case, I won't say any more. Now, sadly, the murder accusation against you still stands. So we must do as much investigation as we can before the trial resumes tomorrow. Well, thank you for doing so much for me.
I'm so sorry for arriving late this morning, Mr. Naruhodo.
Arriving late?
Didn't you receive my postcard? I wanted to let you know when I'd arrive.
Postcard? What postcard?
I hid it from you, Runo, so it would be a surprise. Well, did it work?
Surprised, alright. Especially when she threw me to the ground.
Oh dear, I'm so sorry. I was just so happy to see you again that it sort of slipped out.
Maybe we could stick to a more traditional displays of emotion in the future.
And Susie's train was late into London, Victoria this morning, you see? But we made the coachman really whip the horses hard, so she didn't miss the whole trial. I was watching from the gallery for a while, but in the end, I'm afraid I couldn't contain myself.
Well, I'm glad you didn't.
Oh,
Having you at my side in court gives me strength, or gives me the strength I need to win. So I'm, delighted to see you back in London.
oh, you're too kind, Mr. Naruhodo. I'm delighted to be here. I hope I can continue to be of service to you.
Of course. So, what's brought you back? Did Professor Mikotoba not protest?
Let's save all that conversation for when we're back at home, shall we? You know, I've made one of my most special blends I've made one of my most special blends ever for this special occasion. Oh, Iris, how wonderful. I can't wait.
Susato-san was back in London. It's hard to describe how happy it made me feel at the time. But despite my elation, our tale was just about to take yet another extraordinary turn. Conveniently timed. So, that's gonna be it from me for today. Thank you all so much for watching. Fingers crossed that I will actually be on time to stream tomorrow, instead of being late by half an hour like I've been the last today and yesterday. But yeah, exclamation point Discord if you want to join the Discord, exclamation point socials if you want to follow my VODs channel or my Blue Sky. Otherwise, give me just a moment and we'll find someone to raid. Okay. Who is streaming? Let's forget how to... There we go. So yeah, fingers crossed that my throat is still doing good tomorrow. If it is, we will be streaming more of this. If not, you know the drill, rando, probably. Otherwise, give me just a sec, or not give me just a second, we'll find someone to raid. Wow, brain on autopilot. Have a good one, and take care.